Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Zamora 2-Player Podcast. I am your player 1, as usual, and Matt is here as my player 2. Matt, thanks for joining.
Yep, thank you. The summer heat wave edition. So
yes, yeah, we've been living through it the last couple of days, but for me, it's cooled off this weekend. I don't know. I think you're still
kind of going
getting
through
the brunt of it. Yeah,
100% humidity all day, every
yeah,
day.
yeah.
But anyway,
So yeah, we're dealing with that lately, but luckily for me, where I live, I'm in a basement apartment, so it's not that bad once I'm indoors. And you got your sort of man cave set up in your basement, so
yep,
we have
yeah.
our sanctuaries to retreat to during this.
So in order to escape the heat, I've been playing lots of games. So
Yeah.
so anyway, we're all good.
So I think what we were gonna talk about first, since our FF7 talk, you got a chance to check out the FF16 DLC.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember as much as I can about it because I think I picked it up like as soon as it was out,
Yep.
which is a few months ago now. We're gonna talk about that. You just told me before we started recording you started playing Octopath 2, which I'm very excited to hear your thoughts about because I love that game. And then I am gonna talk about Stellar Blade because I cannot get that game out of my head right now. So I want to talk about that. So yeah, we'll start with FF16. So I think I'm pretty sure we talked about like the Omega DLC. We did,
Yeah,
because you played
definitely.
that when it was relevant. Like you played it when it came out, more or less.
Because that was like in the fall, maybe, or
I think it
something.
was like November, December.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, because they announced it at the Game Awards and it was coming out like the next day or the next week or something.
Yep.
But I'm pretty sure we talked about that one.
Because you downloaded it and like beat it before I even had a chance
Yes,
to boot it up.
that's right.
Yeah.
That
And
tracks.
yeah, exactly. That tracks. And I remember I was already on Final Fantasy mode from
Yeah,
the regular campaign.
same.
And so went through it in Final Fantasy mode right from the start
Yeah,
and was like, Jesus, this is hard. Like this
yeah.
is kicking my ass. And then got like the 2 trophies when I beat it. Like, oh,
That's
okay.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you got them both at the same time. Yeah.
Mm.
Um. So yeah. So the what was it called? Rising Tides. Is that
Yep.
what it was called?
Rising Tide. Yeah.
Yeah. So the most I remember about that is number one. Like the Omega one was fun because it was just like a new dungeon essentially, but it was just all
Yeah.
like Clive mode.
Yeah.
And what I did really like the Leviathan powers that you get.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
didn't think I would like have room for them because like I really like my setup though.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I kind of got used to how to use them, that was really fun. I just remember like the sound effects of his moves
Yeah.
were so sick.
Oh yeah.
Like that was
And
half of the fun of using them.
I had the same problem because I was like, I'm like married to my setup. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to change it at all. I have the 3 slots with very specific staggering reasons or
Yep.
countering reasons and whatnot. It's like I've got no room for a new guy here.
Yeah.
And it's like the game and the play is forcing you to use it. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, these enemies clearly need Leviathan
Yeah, they
stuff. So
definitely encourage you through gameplay to use that stuff for sure.
I can't remember what essentially got. I think like my one of my Titan, like the big punch that you can counter with
Sure.
whatever. I think I pushed that one aside to make room for Leviathan. But same as you, I didn't think I would like it. It seemed a little slow, and but then once I got in the groove of like you if you do like a perfectly timed
Oh,
reload,
yeah. It had like
whatever.
active reload. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Then and so ultimately that power or that icon setup is the only reason I was able to get anywhere in the gauntlet of the DLC because
Sure.
that was the only reason I could get anywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and like, story was fine. That new character was really interesting, like how that because it was just some like magical illusion that was like keeping them. and
Yeah,
like the story of like, wasn't it like a child that
that
essentially like was like
was the dominant.
sealed or whatever? Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah. I'm remembering that now. That definitely was a little more story heavy than the Omega DLC. Like it had a lot more
oh
story
yeah,
to uncover or whatever.
yeah.
Um, and just the Leviathan fight itself, going into that on Final Fantasy mode, like right off the bat. Jesus, I think I died like twice, and then I eventually had to do it. And I do actually remember when I did get the kill, I was on like one hit
Yep.
left, like HP for a like a minute. Like I
Yeah.
had to like perfect dodge stuff, and like I knew the patterns by that point. It was just the
Yeah.
execution or whatever. But I remember that was like a sweaty controller when that when I finished that fight.
One of the phases, I can't remember which one, three maybe. Like it's not when you're in the tunnel of water. I think it's like just after that one.
Yep.
It's Leviathan in its protective whatever, and you gotta like run up to it.
Yes.
It literally was the it's a bit cheesy. It's like you had to be effing perfect.
Yeah.
And it was really annoying. That's one I had to look up. I was like, I can't beat this. I literally can't. It's like I'm good at this game, god damn it. But it was yeah, you had to like do a move right out of the gate and like
I
do absolutely perfectly timed Ifrit kind of punches and whatnot. And anyway.
the like giant beam move you get as Ifrit. I
Mhm.
forget what it's called. Like ignition? No, that's not
Yep.
it. Is that it?
Anyway, the beam one. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
I by the time I was like, you know, like on my last attempt or whatever, and I was getting to that part, I was like, okay. I was like, I'm saving that move for
Yeah.
the first one so that I can maybe build it up by. I don't remember if you
Yep.
get that like 2 or 3 times you get him in that bubble. But I
Yep.
was like, I
Yep.
remember I had to like, I just need to have it at the end when he's like
Yeah.
charging up his big move. So I
Yep.
had to work out like I can use it up until this point, and then I have to just like make sure I'm charging the rest of that point to have it at the end because I just
Yep.
can't get through that thing at the end without it.
Oh, and like I wasn't before I went into that, I didn't quite have the timing for like hitting R1 perfectly to get like the
Yeah,
extra kind of
yeah. I know it's definitely harder. I don't know if it's harder timing is just different because he like what I think he hits. It's kind of like when no, that's Clive when he's limit break where he like hits twice per, but
yeah,
if
yeah, yeah.
it's just slower or whatever, and it's just
Yeah,
different
it's just
timing.
slower. It's like a boom, boom, instead of
Sure.
like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. It's almost like his hand needs to like get through it all before
Right.
you can do it. But you had to do anyway. I had to figure out how to do that perfectly.
Yeah.
To do the beam move perfectly right from the start and have it charged enough so I can. And as soon as it's charged, use it because I needed to be charging up.
Yeah.
I was so pissed off. That was not fun, but everything else was
Sure.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, and I mean, kind of did it to ourselves. Like we're going into it in hard mode, so
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like I can't be mad at the game because the fact that it gives you like 2 trophies, it's like, yeah, you probably don't want me to do this first on the hard mode, but
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, I'm excited for the eventual like run back of that game, for 2 reasons. Like number one, like I loved a lot of the side quest stories,
Hmm.
but it's like now that I've done those, I feel like if I do a second run through, I don't need to do all the side quests again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that I understand like the world building that it did, when going through the first time. So it'll be like a much more like concentrated story run.
Yeah.
And then to be able to do those in like before you get to the end of the game, like
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
difficulty. And they added that I think it was during the update of the DLC. They let you have like loadouts
Yes.
for your
Yeah.
icons, and because
Yeah.
I liked that was like a hard thing I had. I was like, okay, I'll just have half AOE and half big
Yeah.
damage so that I can deal with the trash mobs and then deal with the boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
But knowing that I can just and that's what I did when I was just messing around with some of that stuff.
Mm.
and I was just doing those like arcade missions or whatever, where you like redo a dungeon or whatever.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just made like a full AoE build and like a full boss build, and then as soon
Yep.
as I'm right about to get to the boss, I just switch.
Switch.
You know, because you
Yep.
can't do it in combat, obviously, but just do it right before and then go into the battle and do that.
Yep.
Oh, and that was another thing that I hadn't done the what those trials where you have to use the one icon's powers.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah, you had.
hadn't finished those in Final Fantasy mode.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, while I now that I had like the feel of the combat again, I went back
Yeah.
and redid those, and they were still a little challenging. But I think I was probably a little overpowered by that point.
They're so
Um,
much fun. I love those.
yeah, those were really fun to do again. Um, and then there's that like repeatable gauntlet thing. I don't know if you did
Mm.
that for the trophy.
I did, yeah.
That was
Yeah.
fucking hard.
God. I'll interrupt you for 1 second. I was doing it and I was like, oh, well, I'm not getting the trophy for this. Like this is impossible. I like got through, I think, one boss, one not boss, enemy, fight, whatever. One group of three, and I was like, oh, this is impossible. There's going to be no trophy for beating this because this is just going to be beaten by the best players in the world. And then saw that there's a trophy for it. I was like, God damn it.
Yeah.
But anyway, sorry, keep going.
Oh, it was yeah, like it was so brutal starting it. Was there like call them like meta progression where like could you not do stuff even if you had a failed run? Can you not do something to like make subsequent runs better? Like you can't give yourself some kind of power ups that make subsequent. You're like
I
starting
don't think so,
absolutely
yeah.
fresh every time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so it was just kind of learning like which ones were the best ones to
yeah,
use to like heal yourself back up, or I forget what all the power ups were now. Basically, it's like a roguelike mode.
yep.
And but yeah, that took like probably like 2 or 3 days for me to
Oh, yeah.
like just keep going in, like do it for like an hour or two at a time, like try a couple runs, like okay, get a little further, but yeah, that definitely, and just like because part of it was like I forget what these enemies do.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You need to know their moves and like their tells, right? So a lot of it was like, and I think I did. You know what? I think I did those icon things and then came back to it because
Okay.
I remember being like, oh, okay, like some of these enemies I
It
like.
helps.
I remember
Yeah,
now
yeah.
how to fight them or whatever, or like the moves they do. So I definitely left that trophy for the end for sure.
Oh, man, it was. And like, say you made a pretty good run at it and did not win, you'd be like, that was fucking 45 minutes and I've
Yeah,
got nothing to show for it.
yeah,
And I'd be so angry. I'd like throw my controller and like it's you know almost 1 a.m. I thought I was gonna beat it. Now I gotta go to bed. I'm all angry. I'm not gonna be able to get to sleep. And I just like, I hate this. I hate this so much. But
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
try it again tomorrow.
Yeah, but I'll be back.
I'll be back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that I left that for the end for sure. But yeah, it was a lot of games will try to slap on like a rogue-like mode, and
yep.
often it's like okay, like it's very bare bones, or it's just not fun, or it's just like
Yeah.
very tacked on. But obviously it didn't really have any sense lore wise or anything. It was just like a silly mode to do, but
Yeah.
like it was like well designed. Like it genuinely was like okay, there was some like real thought put into
Yep.
like the power ups and the type of progression you can make, and the scale, like the escalation of like the difficulty and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, it
I
was really well implemented.
I really liked it. I loved like the kind of 16-bit interface.
Yeah,
Like that
they
was cool.
they do a very similar thing in 14 where there's like it's kind of like a dungeon crawl mode, but it's like you just start at level 1 and you level up really fast, and there's like it's like procedural generated dungeon like
Yep.
layouts and stuff, and uh they have like this very similar like layout for like tracking progress and saving your progress to come back later and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it definitely it was very familiar for me. Was You could tell it was like the same, like same like menu designers that did the. It's called like Deep Dungeon in 14.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a nice touch, and it's similar to like the save screen on like in general on
Yeah. Oh,
FF16. They have
yeah. Oh, yeah.
yeah,
Exactly. I'd seen the little sprites before, but
yeah,
it was just a nice little touch. Um,
yeah.
and there's so many times like you needed to be in the zone to really make any progress there, and it'd
Mm-hmm.
be like I'm the rage mode or whatever was essentially like health regeneration, like using
Yeah,
that strategically. It's like, I don't want to have to use that as a buff. Like I
it's
need
just to get
something else.
HP back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and but yeah, and so the Leviathan, like just the regular like attack with it, like because it was like a range attack, or
Mm-hmm.
just shooting water cannon or whatever it was.
Yeah.
That I would just need that to be like, I need to back away and just like reset. And I need to like just think about what I'm gonna do next, and like, but I need to be constantly keeping stagger going up or something like
Right.
but it was just like a way for me to be attacking from a distance while I let my heart rate get back down
Yeah.
and build a strategy again. But yeah.
Yeah. So all in all, for for both of those DLCs, like I said, I'm genuinely looking forward to the eventual like run through again and
Yep.
just doing those where they're dropped, which I think are both pretty much right at the end. I think they both kind of take place right before you go to Origin or whatever it was called.
Yep.
Um, but yeah, I'm excited to like experience that as a whole, like one whole game again at some point.
Yep.
Um, yeah, it was
It's just
fun. It was actually like a year ago, almost exactly. I think it was like 21st or 20th or something like that.
there's
16 actually came out.
a bunch of stuff on Twitter right now about that. Like it's like how FF16 came out like a year ago
Yep.
today, and this was, I don't know, yesterday, something like that. But
Yeah, it was like
yeah.
just within the last couple days. I forget which day I actually went. It might have been yesterday. Actually, I can't remember. But yeah. So it was nice to kind of finally uninstall that game and free up like 150 gigs or whatever on PS5 because I uninstalled Rebirth as well, so like that's like 90% of my hard drive
Yeah,
space.
seriously,
Getting
seriously.
those putting those, retiring those for the time being. And then so yeah, so when I didn't even know you picked up Octopath Traveler 2, so let's talk about
Yep.
that.
Yeah,
I
no,
know I've
totally.
been telling you about it. Like I've definitely like wouldn't talked about it a lot with you or whatever. So I'm
Yep.
not surprised. But yeah, I didn't know you actually pulled the trigger.
Yep. So it Square Enix had like some sort of sale going on at one point, and I was like, you know what? It's I'm going to play this. I'll pick it up, and I don't know quite when I'll play it, but I'll pick it up.
Sure,
So I
grab it
downloaded
on
that.
sale. Yeah.
And it was funny because I was just about to go to a conference that was in Mexico, and a friend of mine was like, "Oh, have you have a Switch now? You ever play Mario Odyssey?" I was like, "Yeah, I played it through." I was like, "Oh, but you didn't like go and get like all the stuff
Oh,
like
sure. All the
more
moons.
moons and stuff." I was like, "No, I just kind of did is almost straight through." I was like, "Oh, well, you should definitely play more of that." And it's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm going on a trip to Mexico, a big
Yeah.
flight, so yeah, sweet." So I just played that the entire like flight. And so I beat that again, but did a lot more side stuff. I didn't do everything,
Oh yeah,
but
because yeah, you played it on my Switch, so you wouldn't have
yeah,
had like your file or whatever.
nope, nope.
Right. Okay.
So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to play it again. Oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was awesome. It was a perfect way to kill kind of a flight and did a lot more side stuff. And then it was like, I was getting kind of to the nitty gritty of moons of like looking stuff up online. It's like,
Yeah.
I don't
The
really want to
less
do that.
obvious ones. Yeah.
Like I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. I think I'm done with this for a little while.
Yeah.
So I on the flight back, I'll boot up Octopath 2. So
Oh, so you
that
got it
was
on the Switch.
yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
okay. Nice. Nice.
Because I wasn't sure, and then I said, you know what? I think this is going to be something that I'll like to have with me on the go.
Yeah.
So I got it on the Switch. Um, and so I got to play that on like the entire flight back. Um, and so when it starts up, it was just like pick your traveler or whatever. I was like, I don't know anything about any of
Yeah.
this. I don't know who to pick. So I've started with Throne.
That's who I picked too.
Really? Oh,
Yeah, that
that's
was
awesome.
my starter one.
I wanted to pick, or I was going to pick Oswald, but it like gives you like a warning. It's like, oh, he's in prison,
Oh yeah, you
and
got to do like two of his chapters to start
yeah,
with. Yeah.
and like I didn't know what that meant,
Hmm.
so I was just like, oh, if the game is saying, "Are you sure?" Maybe I'll pick
Maybe
someone
not your
else.
first one.
Maybe not for my first. And I didn't play Octopath 1, so like I had no concept of
Yeah,
what any of this is going to be like. So anyway, I played it on the plane and just like fell in love with it. The music is amazing.
it's
Um,
so good.
because I was like obsessed with the soundtrack to the first one because you mentioned it to
Oh
me.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I've
That's
never
right. You haven't
played.
even played it.
I know, and I love the soundtrack to the first one. So I
And
knew the
it's
music
same
was gonna.
composer and everything too. Like it's obviously it's all the same team doing the music for the
Yeah.
sequel.
And so, anyways, and then like I've gone to like a couple of conferences and like brought it with me, and it's been like a perfect bang out a chapter, like
Yeah,
whatever. It's really well designed for what I kind of needed right
yeah,
now.
that
Like it's
makes
like
sense.
I can't play this for 5 hours, but I can do a little like I'm in waiting for a conference to start. I got 45 minutes, I'll get a chapter through or
Sure.
whatever. So anyway, so really, really liking it. And yeah, the music is awesome.
Oh, it's
Uh
so freaking good. I don't think two's soundtrack is available like on streaming yet. Um, I haven't looked lately, but I'll have to check again. I know the first one is like on Spotify or whatever, but
yeah, yeah.
I can't wait for the second one to make its way there because yeah, it has some such good tracks. God damn, I love
I'm
that game's music.
Oh, it's so good. The nighttime version of everything is like usually my favorite.
Sure.
Like I usually prefer the nighttime one, but they're all good.
Hmm.
The nighttime version is usually some sort of choir instead of a string instrument or something like
Sure.
that. But
Yeah.
uh, anyways, I'm playing it with Japanese audio.
Oh, okay.
So and the subtitles, whatever. So I know the voices are kind of maybe are a bit different because I remember you showed me for a chat
Yeah.
her voice
Her
and
howl that she does. Yeah.
yeah, she's just as adorable
Sure.
in Japanese. But for
And
a lot,
I think it's Ochette is I'm not gonna get her name right. Susie Young. I think that's how you
oh,
say it. It's
like
Yuffie's
Yuffie.
voice.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe if I play it again, I'll play it with English audio.
The English ones
Uh,
are very good. Like it's not one of those cases where the English ones are like, you know, painful. Like they're high caliber actors they got for
yeah,
that
yeah.
game. So the voice acting is very good in both for sure.
My go-to team for a while, and now it's getting quite fluid now, but Throne is always there. I think does the person you choose at the beginning, are they locked as a
Yeah.
character? I think. Yeah,
Until
that's
you
fine.
do their fourth chapter,
Okay.
they're locked in your party. Yeah.
I mean, I love her and all of
Yeah,
like
she's so
she's
cool.
awesome. So I'd never switch her out. Oswald is my magic,
Mhm.
extraordinaire. There'll be times where like, oh, you all have fire as a weakness. They're done.
Yeah.
The battle music doesn't even have a chance.
Yeah.
And but the others, I had Temenos for a long time just as a healer,
Yep.
whatever. But now I kind of have, oh, what's his name? The like samurai guy, Hiriki or
Oh,
something like that.
Hikari,
Hikari, yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Um, so now I'm really liking him, and so but I also I get a kick out of Partitio, and
He's
oh,
like the
Chet.
Western guy, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's really funny because his the text on the screen is very, yeah, kind of
He's
like
very Southern. Yeah.
Southern, but
Cowboy kind of talk.
and so the Japanese is like a version of that,
Yeah.
like all the time. It's just like, oh,
It would be like,
arigato.
oh, I don't know. Wait, did you? It's like Cindy in 15, but I don't know if you met Cindy because I don't know how much you played of
Uh,
15.
Sid's daughter.
Yeah. or
Yeah, yeah,
granddaughter or whatever. Yeah,
or whatever. Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
she's got a real like Southern accent in English, so they do it like you said, a version of that with the
Yeah,
Japanese voice. Yeah, same
just
kind of thing.
like it'll be like, oh, thank you kindly.
Sure.
But the Japanese version of that is arigato-san.
Sure.
Anyway, so Partizio, I like him and his what's it called, latent power or whatever is just like full BP, and
Right.
it's just like yes, that's what I want because I need to get the shield points down
Yeah.
on this guy, whatever.
God, the combat system in that game is so fucking fun. I
Yeah,
love the like. So Bravely Default on the 3DS, Bravely Default and Bravely Second,
hmm
were basically Final Fantasy games without the title. Like it
yeah,
literally had job switching and all this kind of stuff. And they did this a version of this system that not the weakness on the enemies
yeah,
and the breaking, but like the storing points to use them, to use up four to boost
yep.
your attack or boost your spell or whatever. Like they
Mm,
did that. That's what braving was in
mm.
that game. And I think it's mostly the same team or a lot of the same team that did Octopath. I'd
Oh,
have to
cool.
look that up to be sure, but I know there's some, overlap in those teams.
Yep.
And that system is definitely like evidence of that. And it feels, oh God, it feels so good when you break the enemy and it's like, especially if it's like a spell and it's like,
Yeah.
oh, fire weakness.
Yeah.
Just like, even like the sound it makes and like the way the screen kind of like gets dark when you're like powering up or whatever.
Yeah.
God damn, I love that game's battle
It's
system. It's
so,
so good.
and it'll be like I can't remember which boss it was, but I just did a chapter and it was like I had full BP for Oswald. And then so like okay, and then his latent power to like focus on just one person.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
then I had like someone else cast on me like a
Like
buff
more magic
magic
damage or
magic
whatever.
attack up.
Yeah.
And I was like, this
Oh, it
guy
feels so
is
good.
fucked.
Yeah.
And then it was just like 7,000 damage when like everyone else was doing like 600. Like
Yeah.
it was just like, yeah, I just and like they weren't dead yet. I was like, oh, but he's one hit away from being dead. Like I
Yeah.
made a mockery of this guy.
And
But
the boss sprites are
mm,
so fucking cool because they're like the whole screen.
yep,
And like there are some of them later that I've just like I had to take like screenshots of to show some of my friends because it was like this game is just so gorgeous. Like my god, the pixel art that they do
I
is
love
so sick.
I love exactly that because I'll be like, oh man, I finally get to like see what this person looks like.
Right.
Because like
Yeah.
it's just
It's
been a
more
sprite.
detailed, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I love the boss sprites, the mute boss music. Um, it's so,
I
so,
love
so
it
good.
so much. And when you get to like a chapter boss, the like beginning part of the song at
Yeah,
least is
yeah,
like different instruments and
yeah,
then goes into the normal like boss theme.
yeah.
I'm pretty sure Tara that we had on the podcast, Tara C Music, I
hmm
think she's done some Octopath 2 covers. I know
Oh,
she's done
cool.
Octopath 1 and Purple Shala did one for one of Hakari's themes and it's so good.
Mm.
So definitely go check those out now that you have a reference to the music.
Oh man.
Because yeah, the music is just incredible. Like I think that is as much as I love all aspects of those two games. I think the
Yeah,
music is the thing I like the most.
yeah.
Like I think that is my favorite part of playing those is the music.
I I'd say, and I'm really not kidding. Every single like the chapter I'm done the chapter and like the little frame comes around the screen and it's kind of just like, you know, the final
Oh, like the
I don't
text sort of
like
story.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
right
yeah.
right before end of chapter 4 or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think I get goosebumps on every single one of those because
Sure.
the music is so good, and the it's translated very well. Like it's not half-assed. Like
Yeah,
it's really kind of meaningful. And anyway, then the music swells. Like you're just like, God damn, this game is amazing.
it's
Um,
so
anyway,
great. Yeah.
a- and like I'm now like I'm when I was first playing it, I was like, this game's fun, but I don't think I'm quite like I'm just coming off of like the emotional roller coaster that is Rebirth.
Right.
And it's like this game hasn't like sunk its claws into me yet. And now it's just like, oh, I love all of these characters. Even like Agnia, I'll be like, oh, I never use her, but you do a chapter and you're just like, I
I
love
love her.
Agnia. I was
Yeah.
like, God damn it.
So this
Yeah.
is one point I made when I was talking to some of my friends about the first Octopath, and it's true here too, which is so the downside is that like their stories don't really like intertwine as much. They do a
Mm,
little more of that in Octopath 2. In Octopath
mhm.
1, you just get a couple like dialogues of them talking to each other about something to happen, but
Yeah.
never really a chapter that involves both of them or something like that. Um, so that's the downside of having these 8 unique stories.
Yeah.
But the positive to that is that you can have 8 like very tonally
Mm,
different stories, and
yeah.
I like, I appreciate what that brings. So like in the first game, there's one who's just like, this priest and or this priestess whatever, and she's just trying to visit all the churches and reignite this sacred flame or whatever, and it's very
Yeah.
like pure, and there's some stuff that happens, but it's mostly like very good. And then the dancer in that one is like someone murdered her father, and so it's like she joined like a brothel
Yeah.
to like night or what do you call it, nightlight as it no to
Moonlight.
moonlight
Yeah.
as like a prostitute so she
Yeah.
can find this guy that and like go on revenge and kill them. And
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
this is the same game that these things are happening in.
Yeah.
And that was like just a good example of like how tonally they can be so different. So like some stories like um the cleric in this one, I didn't really like care in 2, I mean. I
Yeah.
didn't really care about his story all that much. Like, yeah, okay, interesting, but like, meh, I don't really.
Yeah.
But it's like Throne's story and Hikari's story I really loved.
Yeah.
And Ochet was really interesting. Like, I really liked. I just love that
Yeah.
character in general. But yeah, it just even though you sacrifice having them all intertwine their stories, but you get 8 very unique, like tonally different stories instead. So it's like that's
Yeah.
sort of the trade-off that you get.
Yeah.
Which I was happy with it, and I feel like they did better. I think the stories. Oh God, what's the? This is I forgot. This is 2, not 1. The alchemist. What's her name again?
Oh, I was literally just finished a chapter with her. Cassie, something like that.
Yeah, Cassia or something.
Yeah.
It's gonna bother me.
Yeah.
Anyway,
The girl who lost her memory.
Casti. That's what it is.
Cassie. Yeah.
Casti.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like I'm not saying anything about her
Mm,
story,
mm.
but like hers is probably like one like the best in the whole game for me.
Oh, wow.
Her
Nice.
story is so fucking cool, and I'm assuming because I feel like you would have mentioned something that you haven't been spoiled on what her story turns into.
No, like
Yeah, it's fucking amazing.
I did like kind of I went and got all of the
Yep,
travelers, and I was like, okay, I've kind of been doing other people's, and so I think I'm in the middle of her chapter 2 or something like
sure.
yeah, so I haven't done much really
Yeah,
with her at
I
all.
think
So
it's like the later half starts to really
oh man,
unravel some stuff, which is just so fucking cool.
uh, uh,
Hers was really, really awesome.
I I just finished because Thrones kind of goes to do like the father route and the mother route, whatever.
Right.
And so I was like kind of going through that. And then I think spoilers are okay here. It was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. The father is her like I was like, yeah, just say it. The father is her real father. The mother clearly is the sprite exactly the same as her, and they
Sure.
were together. Just say it. Oh, nope. It's like I'm not your father. She left me and killed the baby and went with another man, and that's her. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, okay, I'll shut
Sure.
up. I thought I knew exactly where this was going, but
Yeah, I do feel like the stories in the first game, aside from oh God, what was her name? The dancer. I can't remember her name now. It's gonna bother me.
in the first one.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fuck. Uh,
Mm.
uh, anyway, whatever. I'll think of it. It's the second we start recording. I'll remember it. But like her story was really unique. The mage guy's story in the first game was pretty unique. I feel like most of the other ones were like kind of like yeah, pretty one dimensional. The thief guy in the first one is kind of unique, but like I feel like almost all of, if not all of the stories in two are definitely like less obvious. Like I
Yeah,
didn't like the cleric guy's story as much, but it wasn't because it was like one dimensional. It was just like it just didn't really grab me or whatever. But
yeah.
I still feel like they were more curveballs or
Mm,
less obvious where it was going for the most part.
yep,
So yeah, that's what makes it such a good sequel. And you don't have to have played the first one to like none of the
yep,
characters seem to exist in both games or anything. So
yep.
it's kind of a standalone thing. Um, there is a point. I don't know if this would be a spoiler. There are shrines. I don't want to say. I don't want
Yeah,
to say. You'll find shrines out in the world, just
yeah.
like between major areas. Go in those and get the thing they give you because it is a definite gameplay upgrade for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because yeah, there have been a few places where it's like, oh, whether it's a shrine or just like anyway, I go in and then I get there's a boss, and I get a like an item or something like that, like a treasure chest or something like that. But I don't think it hasn't been anything
Yeah, it's not
gameplay
that.
changing. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then I've found just kind of recently, maybe in the last 5 or 6 hours of gameplay, whatever, like or maybe 10 hours, like job license places or whatever to get more job licenses, get job licenses for people. So is maybe that what you're
Meaning,
like?
yeah.
I can now be a thief with Oswald,
Okay,
or is that what you?
that's what I was
Oh,
talking about. Yeah.
okay,
Okay. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
want to say it if you because that got spoiled for me in the first game. I didn't know that, and someone's have you found the license shrines or whatever they're called? I was like,
yeah,
and he's like, did you find the things that let you be other jobs? Like, fuck, man, why'd you tell me
yeah.
that? So I didn't want to say it if you hadn't found it yet.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Um,
no, I did.
so yeah,
And
that lets you like rotate out characters even more if you want to like
uh,
experiment with job combinations and stuff too. That gets really fun.
and that's why, I had four staples for a while, and now it's been
Yeah,
quite a bit more fluid.
that's what I was wondering if that's the reason why. Yeah,
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 because I was
yeah.
like, I need someone to heal. So like you said, Terminos wasn't really a favorite character of mine.
Yeah,
But it's like, really the only healer I have other than
yeah.
the apothecary kind of who I wasn't, didn't have them leveled up very much. I didn't
Mhm.
get them till quite a bit later. Um, and it's like I got my magic caster, Throne, and then Ochet. So I was like, this is my good balance. And then the first license that I got was the warrior one.
Sure.
So I was like, oh, okay, sweet. Now I can I made then Terminos became like my most powerful character somehow, because I had like a really, I don't know, I must have picked up a spear that was
Sure.
um, super powered up, overpowered, and I was like, oh, Terminos is my healer and like physical attack, I guess. But yeah, so I've got a few different jobs with different people now and
Cool.
whatnot. So yeah,
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 that's when it really starts to open up into some cool just really, because like all the passive skills you can combine essentially like in
Mm.
one character. So yeah,
Hmm.
you can do some really fun builds.
Yep.
I
And
remember like I think I because Throne has like it's called like HP Thief
yep.
where she hits twice,
Yep.
and I think I had like her warrior stuff on that, and she would just like with like a brought like a two-handed sword or something and do HP Thief or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I don't remember exactly how it ended up. Maybe it was the other way. I had Hikari with the thief abilities or something. I
Okay.
just remember
Yep.
like I would do that and it'd be like 9999999. It was like boom
Yeah.
boom. It was just like so much damage.
And HP,
Just
to
full
boot.
heal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I have that with I might be with Hikari, yeah, where it's like HP Thief hits him twice, and he has a two-handed sword that I don't know. I was bleeding cash, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy this sword, even though it's like $1 billion, but
Sure.
like I have it, and so he has that, so he does crazy damage. And I also have like I can't remember what the passive skill is, but it's like 50% of the time when you do a non-attack move, you'll attack.
Right.
Like so if it's like if you steal, 50% chance you'll
Yeah.
also hit them.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I'll do like I want to do armor corrosive. I use that all the time.
Yeah.
Deep protect. I was like, I want to do that, then I'll hit him with the next guy. Deep protect, and just for good measure, boom.
Yeah.
Uh,
That game's so. I'm literally looking at the icon right now on my desktop. Like I don't have time. I don't have time to play it right now. It's so good. Um.
But anyway, yeah, absolutely loving it. It's been good to play in quick bursts.
Yep. Yeah.
Um,
That actually the chapter format definitely makes that a good one to just like if you got an hour to kill or whatever, like
yep,
especially if you're out away from home, like just you have your Switch or whatever. Yeah, that makes a lot of
yep.
sense.
Oh man, it's kind of been a game changer for on the road.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I was a little worried because like I get a lot of work done when I'm on the road because I don't. So I was like, this is just gonna ruin my productivity. But I'm pretty good about it. If anything, it makes me work really hard in a concentrated way to get it done, so I can
Sure.
play play my Switch
Sure.
for a little bit.
Sure.
But anyways, yeah, that's been good for last couple
Cool.
of conferences. And yeah, music is great. So yeah,
Music
thanks
is
again.
so good.
Recommendation, and yeah, I've been loving it.
And it's
Um
obviously for us specifically, or at least people that grew up playing the same games we did, like in that time frame.
oh
Like
yeah,
it's such a love letter to
nostalgic.
the SNES like era of games, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that actually makes it really not a big difference playing that on Switch versus like getting on your PS5. Like it's
Yeah.
not like a graphical monstrosity, you know what I mean? That like would be
Yep.
necessary. I think it probably just runs at a slower frame rate, I think, on the Steam version or on the Switch version. But
Yep.
for a turn-based RPG, like that doesn't matter at all.
No, it looks beautiful. So
Yeah.
yeah.
God, so
I
good.
remember being like, oh crap, there'll be no trophies associated with it, but I was like,
Oh,
whatever.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I have them on Steam, I guess, so I don't have trophies either. So I don't know like how difficult the platinums would have been for them, but I don't have
Yeah.
those either.
But anyways, no, it's been awesome and just the music.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, loving it, and thanks again for recommendation.
Oh yeah.
So
I,
yeah,
I knew that would be a good fit for if it was a good fit for me, it'd be a good fit for you for the same reason. So
yeah,
I'm excited. I didn't know you picked it up, so that was
yeah.
really fun to hear.
It's funny that we both picked Throne as the
Yeah,
as the starter
I
character.
don't even
Yeah.
know like because I think I read there's like little intros. I think part of it was like, man, my thief in the first game was so OP. I think that is part of why I was like, I want to use the thief. And I in the first game when I did it because I knew going into it that your first pick is locked in until the
Oh,
end. So I
okay.
started with the healer in the first game just so
Okay.
I'd always have a healer.
Yeah.
Um, but I was like, I looked at the healer in this one. I was like, I don't really like him that much.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I knew how to play the game a little easier. So having the healer knowing that I get like the you can like swap jobs or whatever. Like
Yeah.
having the main healer in my party all the time is not that important. Like I thought it was
Yeah.
in the first game. So, and she just looks fucking cool. Like she does.
Uh,
It's just such a badass like
yeah.
character design and the art for that game, like the character art and stuff. I won't say. Never mind. There is art that you can unlock in a certain way, and I won't say what that is.
Oh, cool.
But the character art you get is just so fucking cool.
I love all like on the sidebar, like right before you start a chapter or things like that,
Yeah.
like all the art. And but yeah, Throne is just like super badass. Partitio is just like very wholesome, kind of like I like that character a lot.
Yeah.
Ochet's adorable.
Yeah.
Um, Oswald's story is pretty like, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
like this guy's had a rough go.
Yeah.
But no, anyways, loving it. So
Cool. Oh,
yeah.
that's so cool. I can't wait to hear more. And try not to play it myself. Um, but we'll see. I might still do it. Okay, let's just take a quick break then. And then we'll talk. I'm going to talk about Stellar Blade a bit. And I was going to say FF14 Dawn Trail comes out literally Friday. So I don't have much to say about that, especially since you don't have much of reference on it. Other than I'm doing my week off vacation, no life in the shit out of that game.
Yeah.
So it comes out. I think the servers go live like Friday morning at like 5 or 6 a.m. our time. So I booked Friday off, the 28th, and I'll go to bed or as early as I can Thursday, and I'm setting an alarm. I'll probably set my alarm for 5 because sometimes just it comes up a little earlier or a little later, but like they have a projected time, and I'm gonna set it for that time because, I'm gonna be at least for the first couple days until I finish the main story. I'm gonna be no lifing it, and then it's like leveling all of the jobs. They're adding one that's basically Realm from FF6.
Oh, nice.
It's called a Pictomancer, and you're literally drawing like monsters and things to attack for you and stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
And even you get like her max level when you like hit the new max level. Like that's where you get armor that like the Dragoon armor looks like Kane and like the very familiar job sort of what archetype armors. When you get max level for Realm, it's literally just Realm's outfit. Like you're literally wearing her clothes. So that's that. Just to do all that stuff, and then the other new class is like it's called Viper, and it's like 2 one-handed swords, and then like when you power up or whatever, it like goes Darth Maul style and puts the 2 swords together in like a double-bladed
awesome.
weapon or whatever. So those are the 2 new jobs they're adding. But it's like I think when Endwalker came out, I think it took me a month and a half of playing every day to level everything to the new max, and now there's 2 more jobs. So it'll try to take me 2 months to get everything leveled again. But I love that part of an expansion, and they change the old jobs a lot. So it's like I love relearning how to play my old ones, and like can't wait. So that's Friday. So that's why I said I don't have time for Octopath because I was like, I can't finish this in 4 days. I can't do it. So I don't want to start that.
I know. Well, you can just live vicariously through me. I'll give you reports.
I'll wait to hear your updates. Okay, so we'll take a quick break and then we'll jump into the rest of the conversation.
Sounds good. See you soon.
Cool. Hey everybody, welcome back. We just finished our discussion on Matt's surprise reveal of that he's playing Octopath 2. And I think you had something else you wanted to say about it before we continued.
Oh yeah, no, just it's been playing Octopath, but then other than that, it's just been kind of grinding out Tekken a little bit as well.
Oh,
so
sure.
Playing as much as I can there because it's like, I can't get rusty on that.
I know. It took. I think it was like after like the Rebirth, marathon.
Yeah. Yeah.
By the time I was fully done with that game, I was like, man, I just gotta like get the controller in my hand, like just see what my brain remembers from
Yep.
muscle memory, and then had to spend a little bit of time. Like I forget everything I knew about Jin because I barely started learning him in Tekken 8 before Rebirth came out. But it's
Yep.
like I had to like go in with like June, Asuka, and Lily, and I was like, okay, I can still play them. Reina, I think
Yeah.
I forgot everything. So yeah, I was definitely rusty as hell when I got back to it.
I definitely kind of needed some relearn a few things, and
Yeah,
but then got to a good point with Horang again,
yeah,
and did a bunch online and like cleaned up on some online battles
sure,
actually. So and a few times of like they kind of wipe the floor with me for like 2 rounds, and then I come back to win
sure,
3.
yeah.
And there were a couple of times where I know they were throwing the controller against the wall, and not for cheesy, like it
No,
was just
no,
like
just like
I
they
won
had
that
it.
fair and square, and I did some stuff that he did not see coming.
Right.
So I felt pretty good. I got pretty far up in the ranks in some online stuff. So yeah,
The because Lydia is the next character coming out, which I'm
yep,
pumped for because I started to learn her at the end of T7, which
yeah,
is really fun. And I was really hoping it was gonna be like this weekend,
yeah. Yeah,
because
it's been a while since they announced that.
yeah, so
Yeah,
because I wanted some time with it before Dawn Trail came out, but
yeah,
I don't think it's gonna be this week. So it's like, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to play her like right at launch, but it might still come out like by the weekend, but I'll be knee deep
yeah,
into the expansion at that point. But hopefully it's here. So you're coming home for like a week,
yeah,
in on like the second week of July. So hopefully she's out by then, so we could get some Tekken in with that. And I'm
yeah.
probably just gonna buy the pass anyway because like it's not that much more than just buying individual characters, and that way I'll have
Sure.
Eddie as
Eddie
well.
as well, sure.
So for when you're down, but yeah, well, yeah, I'm looking forward to her coming out because I want to. But it's like now if she comes out this week, I'll play her for like 5 seconds, and then I'll be playing Final Fantasy 14 for a month, so I'll forget
Yeah.
everything anyway. But so excited that she's being added because she was really fun. So
I kind of started because like what I'll do is I'll practice with Hurong for a bit. I'll do some online stuff. Um and then there are a few like character but like the
like this,
story mode,
yeah,
whatever.
character quests or something. I forget what they're called.
I'll do a couple of those, but my goal is to kind of get all of them.
Sure.
There's no trophy associated with it, but it's just like those those endings are always funny.
Yeah.
And but now kind of have been playing around with King a little bit, learning a bit more on how to use him with like the new engine and stuff
Sure.
like that. And I'm really excited to play some King with you guys because there are some like
Sure.
mid-air throws you can do with them and stuff like that.
I've
And
seen them online. I'm very aware of these moves. God damn it.
yeah, so I'm excited to throw some King in the regular rotation. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
that'll be
yeah,
fun. Okay, so yeah, since a lot has happened since we finished Rebirth, for my at least for like games I've been playing since
mm,
then. So I think the first real game I jumped into, it would have been Rebirth and then 16 DLC, and I think Stellar Blade was shortly after that. So that was the next main game I got into.
okay,
And played that all the way through, and I'm going to talk about it, but fucking love that game. And then when I finished that, so I was thinking, like, for this podcast, I could easily sit here and talk to you about. I went on a major Dark Souls binge because Dark Souls Remastered, which I didn't have yet, was on sale. And like bought that. I was like, oh, I'll play this a little bit, beat it.
yeah,
Played all the way through. Didn't just play a little bit. Then immediately played Dark Souls 3 because I don't really like Dark Souls 2 as much. There's a whole story behind why that game's a little weird, but
hmm,
Dark Souls 3 to me feels like the true sequel to Dark Souls. So played all the way through Dark Souls, played the Demon Souls remake on PS5, then played Bloodborne. I
Oh
went through
wow.
all of those games in like 2 to 3 weeks or something. And I
I
actually
feel
hadn't beat Bloodborne since like I first got it like 7 years ago or whatever it's been.
I feel like I remember seeing, is that on PS? Like,
Yeah.
I remember seeing your name with Bloodborne, and I was like, that's an old game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I had the Dark Souls itch.
Mm,
I just couldn't stop myself. And I hadn't beaten that one again since, and I got the bad ending when I beat it before, where you basically miss like two entire final bosses.
hmm.
And I always wanted to go back and do it. So I was just in the groove with all these Dark Souls. And when I did the Demon Souls remake, I did like a magic build, which I've never done, and so that was really fun. But I went hard on all those, so I could have talked about those. I could have talked about I absolutely dived headfirst into Persona 3 Reload, beat that game. That's a 70-hour game.
Yeah.
Obsessed over that music. Played the Diablo 4 campaign all the way through. I just beat Parasite Eve. I played through that again like the last like 2 weeks.
Oh man.
And
The
beat
first one.
that. The first one, yep.
Okay. Yeah.
But I could talk about any of those, but honestly, I just want to talk about Stellar Blade. I
Yeah.
cannot get that game out of my head. That game is just brain rot for me at this point.
Wow.
So I know I've shown you, I think I've sent you like a couple clips of the combat and the music
Yep.
and stuff. Um, and it's like, so a lot of people compare it to Nier, which I understand just looking at it why you would make that comparison, because it's like almost looks like it's going to be a meme game because oh yeah, super hot female, protagonist with a robot
Outfit that makes no.
companion,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and an
Yeah.
outfit that makes no sense and a floating robot companion. So like sure, that evokes near memories.
Yeah.
The combat is way more like something like I kind of described it as like the Venn diagram overlap of like Bayonetta and Metal Gear Revengeance. Like that's
Oh.
kind of
Okay.
honestly where I would put it in terms of how the combat is. And then it's got like
Is it
it.
made by Platinum?
No, it's
Oh.
some
Okay.
Korean game company that has only ever made mobile games.
Oh. Wow.
This is like their first like AAA like published game or whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and the world like level exploration is more like near to an extent, and the music definitely has like near vibes and a lot of it. Then there's some that are more like super intense, like again leaning more towards almost like Metal Gear Revengeance type of boss theme sometimes,
Yep.
and just some really like super intense like hard K-pop kind of music.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't even know how to explain the genre of some of the music in it, but like as you're going through, there's like one part where you're like you're going down this like giant, I don't, it's like just some like giant tube,
Yeah.
and you're just like kind of going through the desert and you find this shortcut to bypass all the sand dunes, and you're just skateboarding on your sword with this brand new track that's playing that's unique to just that part, I think.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's almost like the old like Sonic games where you're like going down this tube and you're like going around like dodging things and shit, and it's like that's what makes it feels like a Platinum game sometimes, where they just have these really weird segments, and these very almost like Uncharted style like set piece moments
cinematic.
of like escaping something before it falls, or something falls on you or whatever. um but it, there's the thing that you've mentioned on the podcast before, that it's like sometimes things just happen and you're like, this is what video games, like this is what I love about video games. There are so many of those moments in this game where it's just like the most video gamey video game in like the absolute best way.
Oh man.
The story's fine, like it's not a bad story. That's definitely where the comparisons to Nier stop. Like Nier story is way more intense and more in depth. It's an interesting story though. Like I wasn't bored. I wasn't skipping cutscenes or anything. But it's like the setting, combat, and music are like really what carry this game. And visually, it's stunning. Like it is a very pretty game. Um, the I feel like the combat has a lot of like weight to it. Like it doesn't feel like floaty. Like the hits really feel like, like there's a lot of weight to them. The parry in this game, my god, it
Good.
feels so good, especially with like the PS5 controller.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
it's like L1 that you parry with, and I'm pretty sure, like I can't prove this necessarily, but this is what it feels like. It feels like the vibration like emanates from the L1 button, like, and it
yeah.
feels like it goes through the controller.
Yeah.
And like the sound that it makes when you get a parry, like it's just this, this really satisfying like clanking sort of sound of like
Mm.
metal on metal. And then you got like a perfect dodge where it slows down for a second as you like do like a fancy dodge out of the way. There's a lot of really cool, like the game adds a lot of layers to the combat as you go. Like starting out, you basically just like Bayonetta style combos between light and heavy attack
Yep.
and perfect dodge, parry, and that's about it at the very beginning of the game. And then you unlock like your drone basically turns into a gun at will, and you have like 4 or 5 different ammo types. You get a type of dodge that's like if it flashes blue, you have to hit like forward and dodge, and she'll like swing around like 180 like to the
Mm.
back of the enemy and do an attack. And then eventually you unlock special moves you can do after that or after a dodge or parry normally. There's like if it flashes pink, I think it is, you like backflip, like you kick them and backflip off of them, like dodge, because you have to hit away and dodge, and so you'll kind of backflip back and go right into like like having your gun ready.
Oh, okay.
And so just doing that, and then the camera zooms in like really tight next to it, and it's a really good shot for like it's not just the normal camera but with a gun. It's like it really goes into like third person
Third
shooting mode.
person style. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like the sound of some of the guns is very satisfying, and like the controller feels good because it uses the triggers for that. um the when you So the way bosses work, and this is similar to like a game like Sekiro, but because it's got like a sort of a stun meter, but it's like, let's say a boss has like 10 of these little pips or whatever for their stun gauge. It's like every time you perfect parry, it like
Yeah.
takes one of those down. And
Yeah,
then
yeah,
if you
yeah.
get all of them down, then you do like a fancy move that just does a lot of damage. Um,
I kind of gathered that mechanic from the video that you sent me.
sure, yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. And it's got these really over the top, like this is what makes me think of Revengeance, of these like when you get down to like the final hit or whatever, it does like this really fancy, like almost like quick time event, super
Yeah.
slow down, fast, slow down, like all the all those tricks.
Yeah.
And it just like it just feels so fucking cool
Yeah.
to pull that stuff off when you're when you're taking on these boss fights. And the bosses are hard for sure, but as soon as you just like learn their patterns, when you get like 5 perfect parries in a row, and there's even a point where like, so I have an equipment that makes the window for parrying and dodging eat like wider, so it's
Yep.
like you have more room to do it. And then I have like these attack speed buffs, and so there's literally points where it's like block, block, attack, attack, block, block, attack. Like I can swing. I'm fast enough that I can swing in between some of the parries, and the window for parrying is big enough that I can still parry the subsequent hits of those
Oh,
combos. And it just feels so good. And the game has like it's got like side quests and stuff, and most of them are good at like, you just unlock this new area, you go back to town, and there's like, okay, a bunch of side quests in this area, so it gives you a really good excuse to sort of really uncover
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
maps of the larger zones or whatever. um and what else was it? The Oh yeah, it does that thing with music that we've talked about a lot already. And a lot of games are doing this more and more. Is like the music phasing. So you have
Yeah.
like the calm version of the area music, and then it goes into like the battle
Oh,
version.
love that
Um,
so much.
yeah,
That's
same.
such a that's a nice touch. I
Yeah,
love that. Yeah.
I love when games do that, and the music in this game is so good that it's like it really pops off when even
Yeah, yeah.
more when it's doing something like that. Um, the yeah, the super over the top boss battles, some of them just like design wise are so wild. And the music, like I think almost every like unique boss, because there's some bosses that are just like sort of a reskin of an older boss, but he's like more powerful. I don't think that necessarily has unique music, but all like the main story bosses like have a unique track pretty much.
Oh wow.
Um, the and just the music in general, like the all of the areas. Like I'm near the end of the game. When I was near the end of the game, I was like, okay, like it's gonna have a bad track eventually, right? And it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
every time you hear a new song, it's just like I would. There's so many times in that game where I just stopped and just let the music play for like 5 minutes or whatever, just to like listen to
Yeah.
it. Um, and the what else was there? Overtop boss. Oh, another thing. So it's like if you've ever played a Korean game, you know what the characters in this game look like. They're all just like supermodels and like very over the top designed or whatever. But like this game, so not only when it came out, it was like super polished, which
Yeah.
is more and more rare these days with like these big budget games. I didn't encounter any bugs at all. Game runs buttery smooth. Didn't
Nice.
crash. Uh, didn't feel janky or frame rate dip or like it ran perfectly. Um, it so easily could have been a game where they just throw on like an in game shop and let you,
Mm-hmm.
because like you can unlock outfits for the main character, right?
Yeah.
And it so easily could have done that and charged
Yeah.
premium currency or whatever. But
Especially since they're primarily a mobile game
yeah,
company. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Like
Yeah.
you'd
Yeah.
think they would, you know,
Easily tack that on. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But they just like trusted in the game's quality or whatever reason. Maybe Sony didn't force them to do it because they published it or whatever. But it's like there's 70 some outfits to get in this game.
Oh,
Like there's a
wow.
lot. It's not just like three different colors or whatever.
Yeah.
There's like I think there's like 72 or 73 unlockable costumes for the main character.
That's amazing.
And like hairstyles and all that kind of stuff. They've added a boss sort of challenge mode where it's just a separate menu and you can take your existing like you know character with all your unlocks or whatever and go into this boss mode. And it's not like a boss rush, it's just you can just challenge the bosses individually
Anyone.
right from the
Yeah,
menu.
yeah.
So and that's great because the boss fights are very very fun.
Yeah, yeah.
And you get an outfit for doing for completing them all, so more incentive to do that. And yeah, I mean it's just like it's it's living in my brain. Like there's New Game Plus, and so I started going through New Game Plus. I don't know if I'll have time because like I went back to the New Game Plus after I played all those other games because I was just like, man, I just want to play Stellar Blade again.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I went back, and I don't know if I'll be able to finish it before Friday, the New Game Plus run. But there is like a two or three endings because there's like a choice you have at the end of the game. And I did get like the good ending, but there's a boss I didn't get to fight because of that choice. And so there's two empty spots in the boss challenge menu because I think one was just a
Hmm.
hidden boss I just missed. And then the other one was like the other final boss if you make the choice opposite of what I made. Um, but so I want to go through New Game Plus to get those two things unlocked and finish the boss rush mode or whatever. Um,
How many hours for the for
yeah,
full
so
playthrough?
that's it too. Is I thought a game like this because so it plays. It kind of reminds me of like older like PS2 era action games where it's like, you know, well, that's not really fair to say because like at first it felt like that because the first level feels more like just like a stage, and it's like, oh, here's stage one, and you go through it. But
Yeah.
then it ends up being like, oh, there's like actually like three very unique segments to this stage, so it feels a little more open. But I kind of just thought it'd be like, oh, character action game, 10 hours, 12 hours probably is like to get all the way through. It was like 38 or 38
Oh,
or
wow.
some hours. I was like probably 36 ish when I finished it. And I did not every single side quest because there were a couple that I'm just like, nah. Once I was getting near to the end, I really wanted to see the last because I could tell, even though like the story wasn't like blowing me away necessarily, I could tell like there were going to be some real epic set piece moments in this finale kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah,
So I was
yeah.
like, I really wanted to just see. And I remember there was a scene from one of the trailers that I hadn't seen in the game yet, and I was like I knew based off the story, like I was going to be in the area that part happened, and I was like, I just want to see what's going on with that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And yeah, the last like couple hours of the game were so over the top, and it's just so fucking cool. Um, and that combat, the extra layers they add to it over time, because you have like moves on cooldown that you can do, right? That you eventually unlock, and then you get like these like overdrive moves, which I think you gain the sort of meter to use those by blocking and dodging.
Okay.
Like that fills that meter up more. The other ones are just like a timed cooldown. You have this like transformation sort of thing you can do where you're basically invincible for a few seconds. So you like pop that when like your back's against the wall in a boss fight and you just need a breather or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like a lot of the combos and stuff you can do. Like I said, if you so there's like a perfect parry, and then eventually you get a move that you perfect parry. You can do like, I think it's if you hold light attack or heavy attack, you'll do like two different moves. Same thing if you do that after a dodge, and then you can use like your overdrive meter to do like souped up versions of those after you do some of these things. Like it's way more than just button mashing. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it easily
Awesome.
could have been. But yeah, the combat, it feels so fucking good. Um, and yeah, some of the best parries. Like even when the visual feedback when you get the parry, like just it's got so many like sparks and like particle effects, kind of digital looking, little streaks that go across the screen when you get these things. Yeah, I'm
Is
probably gonna
it
play it after when I'm recording. Like we were talking about it, I was like, God damn, this game is so good.
Oh man. Is it
And
PS5 exclusive?
yeah, yeah,
Nice.
it'll eventually come to PC, I'm sure. But
Sure, yeah.
yeah, it was PS5 only, and so loading times are next to nothing. Um, the visuals, I'm surprised at how good it looks for how well it runs.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean? Like it's because it's like 60 frames, like not skipping a beat that I
Hmm.
noticed. At least not noticeable or not obvious, I should say. But yeah, what a fun game, and like those weird moments, like I said, where you're just like snowboarding on your and her sword like holsters into like a ponytail because it's kind of like it kind of like extends almost like a like lightning's sword, how it's like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like something like that where it's like very compressed or compact and it kind of
Yeah.
extends out, and it's like she puts it like in her little ponytail or whatever when she's not using it.
I love it.
And just some of the cut scenes with like you have those really cool like showdown sort of moments with bosses or NPCs or
Yeah.
whatever. And it's got a nice, like a very like cozy kind of hub city, and like the music gets like progresses as you progress the game because like you're bringing more power to this like to this city or whatever,
Mm.
and so it's like more things are like more shops are open or whatever, and so then like every time you do like one of these main story progressions, like the music in the town changes, like it becomes more lively, and even in some of the zones actually the music will progress as you, I don't know if it's tied to story or just I don't know what progression it's tied to. Probably story, I guess. But the music of a zone, um, the second and third big zones, definitely like change as you make
Changes.
your way through it.
Hmm.
And like good secrets. Like that's what makes me think of like some old action games. Is like you gotta look behind. Like, the game starts. You come through a doorway and it starts you down this hall. Like you want to look behind first because there's probably something right there to grab.
Yeah.
There's like these collectible they're just like cans. I guess they're full, so they're like drinks. And it's like that's the collectible, and every time you pick one up, she like holds it up to the camera, like smiling, and it plays a little jingle, like it's so silly. But it's just like I remember I did that, and one of my friends just said like, "Hey, get those sponsorships, like gotta pay
Yeah.
those bills or whatever." And it's like looks like she's just like an influencer.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's just like and stuff like that where the game doesn't take itself like too seriously all the time. Like the story is pretty heavy in a lot of parts, but it has moments like that where it can just, like I said, it just knows it's a video game, so it does like some silly video game things.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it is. I'll show it to you when you're home, when you're visiting.
Yeah.
I was like, man, if it was shorter, I'd be like, you might be able to beat this while you're here, but it's like 30 hours, so and you're going to be doing stuff during the day, so
Yeah.
it's not as easy to do.
I'll get a copy of it. So it's
Yeah,
definitely on my list.
pick it
So
up on
yeah.
sale at some point for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that, and it's funny because Hi-Fi Rush came out on PS5, and it was on
Yeah.
sale for like $25, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna buy it again.
Yeah.
Just so I can play it on my TV and on the PS5.
Yeah.
And I want to like reward. There's a whole thing where Microsoft like shut down that studio that made that game, and I don't know if this is how it works, but I want to show them that they made a mistake, and like I'm gonna buy this game from that studio again to like,
yeah,
this game is good. Why did you shut them down? Yeah, I don't know. It probably just all goes to evil anyway, but whatever. That's how I felt. So I wanted to play it again anyway, and like I said, playing it on my TV. So I'll have that as well. So I was like, hey, Matt could play some of that maybe because it's a much shorter game. That's like 8 hours to beat that game. It's not very long.
Yeah. Awesome.
But when I played that, I was like, oh god, like the parry button is different. Like the I think that light and heavy attacks are the same, but the parry is different. Yeah, because L1 is parry in Stellar Blade, but it's like grapple, like an actual grappling hook that pulls you to an enemy in Hi-Fi Rush. So I did a lot of that by accident in the beginning. But when I went back to Stellar Blade, and I was like, oh yeah, that the combat in that game just, it feels so good, especially once you unlock more of the tools and like just like there's one of the bullet types that's like almost like I feel like it's like a grenade launcher type of ammo, and like sometimes the enemies will flash, I think it's red, when they're about to do like a long string, so it's going to be like a lot of parries that in a row, and that grenade shot would stagger a lot or like just stun them for a second and interrupt them. So sometimes just be like we fighting, like sword fighting, and they'd flash and it was like bang, and just like this huge explosion, and it just there's like and then I would like dash in to like keep fighting or whatever, but it was just they'd twirling their blades, and it's like the Indiana Jones moment where it's like bang, it's like bang, stop it. Stop this. And so it just gives you a lot of like, I feel like there's just a lot of ways to approach the combat, and like there's one of them that's like a lock on rockets, and by the time you fully upgrade it, you can lock on like 6 rockets at a time or something, and it locks really fast. So another thing, if they push me away or whatever, just and just like shoot all these rockets at them. Like it's a very satisfying like lock on sound and visual cue. But I don't have all of the costumes because I haven't finished the New Game Plus. I looked at the platinum, and like it's very doable. I just have to complete the New Game Plus run. There's certain areas where I didn't find all those cans, and I went right in. I didn't make like an extra save of my file right at the end, so I should have done that, because then I could have done the second ending right away and got that trophy, and then just went and collected all the cans. But I was like, I'm gonna play this all the way through at some point anyway, so when I get through it eventually on my New Game Plus run, then I'll have access to the trophies. I think I'm only missing like probably like a handful, like 5 or 6 trophies.
Oh, okay.
So it won't be that hard to platinum it once I just get to the end again. Because one of them is beat it on New Game Plus on hard. So
Yeah.
that's what I did when I went to New Game Plus. I don't know if hard was available from the get go. It might have been, but I just started on normal. But when I did New Game Plus, I switched it to hard and just to go through on that. And it's
Yep.
I'm not just plowing through everything. Like it is actually pretty challenging
Yeah, yeah.
still.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, that game is like I said. After playing all those other games, I'm just like, God damn, I just want to play Stellar Blade again. It's like in a world where FF7 Rebirth didn't come out this year, this would be so far at least this year like leagues ahead as my game of the year. Like,
oh man,
and more than anything else I've played this year, this is the one that I'm just like, and it was part of it was just like the surprise. Like I expected it. I definitely bought it because like the combat in the trailers looked good.
Yeah.
The setting looked really cool. And the character was interesting and obviously got a lot of eyeballs. But the game looked fun. Like it definitely looked like I love a good game that has like a good like parry and dodge system. Like you can sell me on your game if those two things feel good. And so I kind of went into it expecting it to be like a 7 out of 10, like whatever, like silly action game with a attractive female protagonist. Like I don't know what to expect out of this, but I'm not expecting to be blown away. And so maybe that's part of why I liked it so much is it just kept getting better. And just kept impressing me with every new big set piece and music and all this stuff and how in depth the combat really got. So yeah, it blew me away. Like I said, in a non FF7 Rebirth world, this would be my game of the year 100%. And I don't know if anything else is coming out this year that will dethrone that for me at this point.
Wow.
So
yeah, I'll definitely pick it up because it definitely looks like a fun time. So keep an eye out.
Very, very, like I said, I really think the best comparison of the combat is like Bayonetta and Revengeance. Right in the middle of what those two games do, I think is where you would find this game.
Awesome.
And setting and music is more Nier-esque for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Because I liked both of those games. So yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Oh God, it's so good. I'm gonna play it tonight. I shouldn't because it's already late, but I'm gonna play a little bit of it probably.
Yeah. So I'm gonna play some Octopath. So
cool. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I mentioned Dawn Trail earlier, but not much to talk about that. Other than just that I'm going to be no-lifing the shit out of it for like 2 months, and I'll give you my updates on that. It's almost so. Endwalker, the previous expansion, was like kind of like the end game in terms of stakes of this game, where it was like literally they've been building this story specifically up for like 10 years since Realm Reborn, which was 2014, I think. And it's just been a pretty, like, it obviously took, there's new stuff that introduced, but it was like the threads of the story were, could be followed all the way through, like all, what is it? Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, Endwalker. So 5 expansions essentially. And it was a very big, like, universe-ending event that you were preventing. So it was like very like over the top and end game level of stakes. And this one is like, we're just gonna go visit this island that no one's ever really explored that we know. Or it's been explored, but like no one that in your circle of like people have really ever gone to see this island. And it's just like, it's like a summer vacation adventure. So it's like you're going into it way less like intense, and so it's like I'm
less
excited.
on the line,
right? and I'm excited to see what the story will develop and what references I'm going to find because there's always a ton of like old FF references in these. Um, but it's like I'm just excited to just play the new classes, to
Yeah.
relearn the existing classes, see some new areas, and like the
I just want some more content.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And the main story for the last one was longer than usual because it was this big build up. So it took me like when Endwalker came out, it was a similar thing where it like came out on a Friday um and I took the time off for it. And I think it like came out on the Friday and I was playing it like, you know, FF7 levels of hours per day, like 16 hours a day or something. And it took me till like Wednesday or Thursday to finish the story.
Oh, wow.
Whereas normally these expansions will take me like I'll probably get done the story by like Monday, and then I'll just spend the whole week, playing all the other
Grinding it.
classes and
Yeah.
stuff. So I'm kind of excited to not have that really heavy storyline to worry
Yeah.
about.
Just to get into the kind of building your classes and
Yeah,
with the new you said there's like uh a realm
yeah, the Pictomancer.
a Pictomancer, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and all the existing jobs is like there's a new level cap, so it's like 10
Yeah,
more
yeah.
levels to get on everything. They released what's called a job actions video, which they released the CG trailer a while ago, and like that's always exciting, obviously, because their CG trailers are so good. But it's like I had a watch party with like the other friends that I play with.
Yeah.
We did a watch party for the job actions video because all it does is goes through every class and just shows you basically like at least once they'll do like almost like a very general idea of what all their moves are now,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
at
yeah.
least all of their their new moves and changes to old move or existing moves. And it's like it's like 28 minutes, like it's long
Yeah,
because there's
yeah,
like
yeah.
so many jobs now and they really go through them. And so we had like a watch party for that trailer when that dropped like a month ago. So just excited to, yeah, like my favorite thing is like when an expansion drops on that game, especially if a job is like fully reworked. Sometimes they just make small changes or whatever. But I love going. They have like these like they're called like just like training dummies that are just like targets that you go and attack that
Yeah.
don't attack back just for practicing stuff.
Yeah.
And I love on like the weekend of an expansion, like okay, I don't know what half of these buttons do now. Let me just go sit at a targeting dummy for like 30 minutes and just figure out what I'm supposed to do now.
Mm-hmm.
And I really like some people will just look up a guide, like, oh, here's your rotation, whatever. Like, I don't like
Yeah.
doing that. I really like to just sit there and like figure out how to play
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I just love that. It's such a satisfying thing. Especially with the new classes because they start at a higher level, so they already have all of their moves pretty much. And I don't know what any of these do, and so
Yeah.
you can sit there for like an hour trying to figure it out.
Figure it out. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but that's the fun part. So that's me starting Friday,
Friday.
and then you're home the next week. So I don't. I'm gonna see if I can set up a capture card because maybe we can record some Tekken or something.
Oh, that'd
That
be
we can
fun.
maybe put something like that up.
Yeah.
But I don't think we'll do an in-person episode because I won't really have much to talk about. Because I literally would just be playing Dawn Trail.
Yeah.
So
Oh, some Tekken would be fun. So
yeah,
if we can do that.
I think with my current setup, I can do it easier now. Um, so I'll see if I can get my capture card working properly, and maybe we can do something like that. But um, yeah, that's pretty much going to be my life for the next couple weeks. Is going to be Final Fantasy 14. So yeah, I'll talk about it when I get near the end of that grind, and we'll get some updates from you on your Octopath. I do have an interview going up with someone I did. That'll probably go up by next weekend. So if anyone wants to hear me gush about Zelda, Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom specifically, I have an interview going up that we basically talked about that the whole time. So that'll be cool. And then yeah,
And I'm not allowed to watch it because I
yeah,
haven't played Tears of the Kingdom
that's
yet.
right.
So
I told Matt he can't watch this one because we go into spoiler territory. So yeah, we'll get, when you get to that point, we'll definitely be able to talk about that again.
Yeah.
Because yeah, that game, that was another one. When me and her were doing this interview, she kept going on about it, and I was like, right, and I literally said, "You have to stop because I don't have time to play this game again, and now I want to." So yeah, that's a problem that I have. I just have this small window where I don't want to start any big games because I'm not going to play it for more than 3 days before Dawn Trail comes out. So yeah, I think that'll do it for now. We'll catch up with you guys again probably in a couple weeks. It's summer, so we're both very busy, but we'll make time. Probably sometime, I don't know, sometime in July we'll be able to sit down again, I'm sure. And at least do some stuff when you're here. Like I said, record some Tekken or something.
It's summer, lots to do, but it gets hot and humid, and you got to escape down to the basement at some point. So
exactly.
anyway, just might as well play some games down there. So that's we'll make some progress. So cool.
Okay. Right. Thanks everyone for watching. Really appreciate it. Don't forget to sub to us here. And I don't mention this often, but the podcast is also on Spotify. So if anyone listens to podcasts there, I usually upload it there the same time I do it on YouTube. So if you prefer listening rather than watching on YouTube, that option is there too. And yeah, we'll see you guys probably in a couple weeks. I will not see the light of day starting Friday for at least a week. So I'll let you guys know. I'll give you my updates when we come back the next time.
Perfect. All right. Thanks everyone. Cheers. Bye-bye.